Weston Price's 1939 book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration covers mineral deficiency and its link to jaw underdevelopment and dental caries in detail. Let's look at some excerpts from this book. Chapter 3: Isolated and Modern Swiss. To study the food produced in the mountain regions, which is presumed to have higher nutritional value, as evidenced by the low incidence of diseases, including tooth decay. I conducted a series of studies in Switzerland in 1931 and 1932. I wanted to find groups of Swiss people living in an environment where physical isolation would compel them to eat locally produced foods. Representatives of the Swiss government, whom we approached for help, warned us that finding such groups would not be easy. However, thanks to the completion of the 11-mile Lötschberg tunnel and the construction of a railway through the Lötschental Valley at an altitude of about a mile above sea level, it became possible to study a group of about 2,000 people. The study took place shortly before 1931. Almost everything the people of the valley needed, except for a few things like sea salt, had been produced in the valley itself for centuries. I studied adults as well as boys and girls. In 1931 I collected food samples, especially dairy products, which were sent twice a month in summer and winter. The products were tested for vitamin and mineral content, especially fat-soluble activators. The samples showed a high vitamin content, significantly higher than store-bought dairy products from America and Europe, as well as other regions of Switzerland. The diet of the people of the Lötschental Valley, especially growing boys and girls, it mainly consists of a piece of whole grain rye bread and a slice of summer cheese as thick as the bread, which is washed down with fresh goat or cow's milk. It should also be noted that before World War I rye bread was baked without thermophilic yeast. That was some poison. The wheat wasn't genetically modified, was gluten-free and had no narcotics, something like modern spelt or pearl barley. Let's remember this ratio. The thickness of the cheese should be at least as thick as the black bread, plus you need to wash it down with milk. Only in this case does the phytic acid in the bread become saturated with minerals, and the remaining minerals go to the child. Among all children who followed the traditional diet of rye bread and dairy products, the rate of cavities per person was 0.3. That is, on average, you had to examine 3 people to find one defective baby or permanent tooth. The examined children's ages ranged from 7 to 16. Normal development of the face and dental arches with natural nutrition of the parents and their children. Pay attention to the well-developed nostrils. We had the opportunity to study groups of ordinary children. Studies of the teeth were conducted, showing that 1/4 of all teeth in growing boys and girls are already affected by caries, and only 4% of children avoided tooth decay. Some of these children's permanent teeth are decayed down to the gum line, which of course greatly conceals. One difference from communities living in isolation and having normal facial development is the uneven arrangement of teeth, narrowing of the dental arch, and other facial deformities. Children who eat white bread and have free access to sweets develop cavities and underdeveloped jawbones. Many people living in modern areas have scars on their faces, indicating the eruption of abscesses from infected teeth. Such scars leave marks on the face for life. Chapter 4: Traditional versus Modern Celts. There have long been stories about the excellent health of people living on the Outer Hebrides. They are therefore a good example for studying the causes of tooth decay and modern physical degeneration. The islands are located off the northwest coast of Scotland and stretch almost to the southern part of Greenland. You can see the view of their traditional house with a thatched roof in this photograph. In the photograph, you can see the impressive physical development of the local people, the Celtic fishermen. They are characterized by perfect teeth, a regular facial shape, and a proper bite. The main food of the island's inhabitants is fish and oat products with a small amount of barley. Oats grow quite well on the islands, and they are prepared as porridge and cakes, which many families eat with almost every meal. The fishing industry on the Outer Hebrides is especially good. Seafood, including lobsters, crabs, oysters, and squid, is abundant. Baked cod head stuffed with chopped liver, cod and oats plays an important role in the diet of the islanders. We were told that on one of these islands, growing boys and girls have an exceptionally high immunity to tooth decay. Their isolation is so great that a 20-year-old girl who came from the island of Tanasi to the island of Harris had never seen milk. There are no dairy animals on the island. Their diet consists of products made from oats and fish, along with a small amount of plant-based food. Lobsters and flounder play a very important role in their diet. They are almost completely unfamiliar with fruit, yet the physique of these people is remarkably good. Let's pay attention to their diet. Despite the presence of grains, their diet includes a large amount of fish, which contains enough minerals to clearly outweigh the demineralizing effects of the grains. A key aspect of the island research was observing at the edge of civilization. A preliminary sample of the residents of the seaport town of Stornoway can be seen at the pier. Out of 100 people aged 20 to 40, 25 already had dentures, and a much larger number would have looked more presentable if they had them too. Caries is very common in the modern part of Stornoway. In the city, you can buy cupcakes and snow white bread, just like anywhere else. Many other products made from white flour, as well as canned jam, canned vegetables, fruit juices with sugar, jam, and all kinds of confectionery are displayed in shop windows and on counters. This food is especially attractive for two reasons, because of its great variety and its high sugar content compared to the traditional table. Brothers Ostrov Harris. The younger brother on the left eats modern food and has extensive tooth decay. The brother on the right eats traditional food and has excellent teeth. Notice the narrow face and bite of the younger one. The girl on the left has typical extensive tooth decay of a modern Celt. On the right are the typical perfect teeth of a traditional Celt. Chapter 5. Traditional and Modern Eskimos. Our first goal was to find, if possible, a tribe of Indians that was said to live on the Stony River. They were described as very traditional. Our pilot, who knew this region well, said that this was the first time he had landed in this area. All the people were busy catching and preparing salmon. After drying the fish, they smoked it for several hours and then stored it to eat during the winter. These industrious people had physical features quite different from the Indians of Central and South America. Out of the 12 individuals we studied, 10 eat only local food or mostly local food. Among their 288 teeth, only one tooth was found that had ever suffered from cavities, which is 0.3%. Two people came from the Kuskokwim River, a tributary of the Stony River. There they received a significant amount of store-bought food that was brought to Kuskokwim from Basel. Cavities affected 27% of the teeth in these two people. Typical representatives of the local Alaskan Eskimos. Notice the broad faces, wide jaws, and the absence of dental cavities. On the left is a woman with a broken lower tooth. She has 26 children and no dental cavities. Traditional residents from Alaska raise strong and healthy children, and the mothers do not suffer from dental cavities. During our interactions, we never heard Eskimo children cry except in cases of hunger or when frightened by the presence of strangers. Women always have plenty of milk, and breastfeeding goes smoothly and continues without problems up to a year. The mothers had absolutely no tooth decay, and I was told that Eskimo children never have difficulties with teething. That is, pain during teething happens due to a lack of essential minerals and nutrients. We were especially interested in the food that these traditional Eskimos eat. Almost always, their homes are located either by deep bodies of water or not far from them. Their skill in handling kayaks is especially memorable. During the season when salmon go to spawn, they prepare a large amount of dried salmon. They spear fish from kayaks, and even little boys do it very skillfully. They catch so much salmon that they can barely carry it. They are masters at hunting seals from these light boats. Seal fat is an important part of their diet. Every piece of fish is broken off and dipped in seal fat. I got some seal fat from them and brought it to the laboratory to analyze its vitamin A content. Semken, it has been proven that this food is one of the richest sources of vitamin A that I have found. Fish is hung on hooks in the wind to dry, and roe is also spread out in a layer to dry. These foods, surprisingly, make up an important part of the diet for young children after they are weaned. Salmon roe is also used to increase women's fertility. From a chemical composition standpoint, roe is one of the most nutritious types of food I have ever come across. The diet of these Eskimos in their natural state includes caribou, ground nuts that they gather and store in caches, mice, and seaweed, which they collect in season and preserve for the winter, berries, including cranberries, which they store frozen, plant buds and grass preserved in seal fat, and large quantities of frozen fish. Another important dietary factor is the parts of large sea animals, including certain layers of the skin of one species of whale, which have been found to contain a very high amount of vitamin C. When traditional Alaskan Eskimos get white people's food, tooth decay occurs. Often, there is a heavy discharge of pus. Dental care is often unavailable in many areas, causing severe prolonged suffering. This is despite the fact that misshapen jaws or crooked teeth are almost unknown among traditional Eskimo tribes. They are often found in the first generation of children born after their parents switched to white people's food. Notice the narrowed nostrils and the altered shape of the face in these children. These white boys were born and raised in Alaska on imported food. Underdevelopment of the bones causes crowded teeth. Facial defects include underdeveloped nasal passages, so they have to breathe through their mouths. That's why people in our civilization constantly have nasal voices and stuffy noses. Chapter 6: Primitive and Modern North American Indians. Winters here drop to 70 degrees below zero. This rules out the possibility of raising dairy animals and growing grains and fruits. The diet of these Indians consists almost entirely of wild animals they hunt. This makes studying them especially important. The wisdom of these people regarding the laws of nature and their ability to adapt to harsh climates and a limited variety of food, which is often hard to obtain, has developed into an art of living comfortably in tough conditions. When we asked the old Indian through a translator why Indians don't get scurvy, he replied that it's a disease of white people. I asked if an Indian could get scurvy. He replied that it was possible. But Indians know how to prevent scurvy, while white people do not. Then I asked why he wouldn't tell white people how to do it. The answer was that white people know too much to ask Indians about anything. I asked if he would tell me, and he said that if the chief allowed it, then he could tell me. He went to the chief and came back about an hour later and said that the chief said I could be told because I am a friend of the Indians. And the hidden knowledge was this: you shouldn't eat food from the white people's store. In the photo, an ordinary family of forest Indians from northern Canada looks like a picture of excellent health. They live with unlimited food in the form of wild animal meat under the cover of vast forests. The condition of their teeth, the shape of their dental arches, and the oval of their faces are excellent. Wherever the Native Americans lived on their traditional diet, mainly salmon and caribou meat, their physical development, including the oval of their faces and the dental arches of their jaws, was perfect, and they had almost complete immunity to tooth decay. These 2 women and 2 girls are typical. The Seminole Indians live today in southern Florida, mostly without contact with white civilization, and still have magnificent teeth and jaws which are normal for them. They live in the forests of the Everglades and still get natural food. But the Seminole Indians from Florida who live in contact with modern civilization and its diet suffer from extensive tooth decay. Wherever the Indians have access to modern store-bought food, their dental condition is very poor. This is typical for Indians with this kind of diet. The white man's trade has harmful effects everywhere. In deformed faces already in the first generation after their parents switched to modern store-bought food, these young people with deformed jaws are typical. Notice the improper development of the facial bones as indicated by the narrow nostrils and crowded teeth. And these are typical cripples found at the point of contact between modern civilization and traditional Indians. The boy on the left has arthritis in almost all his joints, and several of his teeth have decayed. The boy on the right has spinal tuberculosis. A typical mother was studied in her home environment. She has 4 children. Her teeth are destroyed by dental caries, and she is very modern. She has gold inlays on some of her teeth. The roots of her missing teeth have not been removed, and 20 of her teeth are affected by active caries. Her little 4-year-old girl already has 12 bad carious teeth. Her other daughter has 17 carious teeth, and her son has 6. Her husband is bedridden with an acute lung condition, undoubtedly tuberculosis. Lunch was white bread and stewed vegetables. Only the baby in her arms got milk. Among these Tuscarora, 83 people have dental caries, with 38% of all teeth affected. Everyone surveyed in this reservation eats products made with white flour, and most vegetables are consumed canned. In both reservations, store-bought vegetable fats, jams, marmalades, sweets, syrups, and confectionery products are used in large quantities. It is especially noticeable how early in children's lives confectionery products from modern civilization appear. Chapter 7: Isolated and Modern Melanesians. In 1934, 8 archipelagos in the southern part of the Pacific Ocean were studied. The purpose of the expedition was to observe Melanesians and Polynesians. The Melanesians described below lived in New Caledonia and on the Fiji Islands. Travelers of earlier times who visited the islands of the South Seas described the local population as very strong, well-built, beautiful, and friendly people. Population density was once high on islands, now uninhabited. At present, on the contrary, on many islands the death rate so greatly exceeds the birth rate that the very existence of these ethnic groups seems astonishing. These Melanesians have the typical physique and the characteristic facial and jaw structure of their people. Such features are common on almost all the islands in the Southeast Pacific Ocean. Their diet helps them develop and maintain the physical characteristics typical of their people. The development of the facial bones determines the size and shape of the palate, as well as the size of the nasal passages. Notice the strong neck of the man above and the proportionate faces of the girls below. Such faces usually correspond to fully proportionate bodies. Tooth decay is extremely rare if the diet is typical for these people. Since Viti Levu is one of the islands in the group, it is one of the largest islands in the Pacific Ocean. I hope to find an area far enough from the sea where the inhabitants are forced to eat only the fruits of their own land. However, I was not able to find a place where I did not find piles of seashells that had been brought from the sea into the interior of the island. The guide told me that for inland people, getting food from the sea has always been and remains important. And even during the harsh wars between the plains or mountain tribes and the tribes living on the seashore, the former would bring plant food from the mountain areas at night and hide it in secret places. They would return the next night to collect the food from the sea, which the coastal tribes had placed in the secret places in exchange. People who exchanged food were never attacked, even during active military operations. Here, we should pay attention to how deeply the local Aborigines understood the importance of food. Another animal-based food was the coconut crab, which can reach a weight of several kilograms. Freshwater fish is also eaten where there are mountain rivers and streams. Animal food, however, is not abundant in the mountains, and there is no place where plant food is not supplemented by marine food. Representatives of the Melanesian race living on the Fiji Islands in the Pacific Ocean, whether volcanic or coral, have developed a very strong immunity to dental caries. They have well-developed facial muscles and jaw arches. Their traditional diet consists of sea animals, which they eat along with plants and fruits from the land according to a clear food selection program. These inhabitants of the Fiji Islands demonstrate the effect that occurs when natural food is replaced by imported commercial products. Tooth decay becomes total, and with it the ability to properly chew food is lost. Children and pregnant women suffer from tooth decay more than others. Most islands have no dentists or general practitioners. Toothache is the only reason for suicide. The new generation, born after their parents started consuming imported foods, often have altered facial shapes and jaw arches. The teeth grow too close together, as shown in the photograph. Subtitle editor. From the book provided, it is clear that the main cause of tooth decay and underdevelopment of facial bones is products made from white flour, grains and artificial sweets, which are heat-processed foods that do not contain enzymes. Enzymes in food are destroyed at temperatures as low as 70 degrees and boiling water is 100 degrees. Plants have carefully protected their grains, seeds and tubers. They contain a number of anti-nutritional substances, anti-nutrients, the main one being phytic acid. It extracts minerals from the soil to help the future plant develop. This acid is not destroyed by heat treatment and, when it enters the human intestine along with grains or root vegetables, it does what it was supposed to do in the soil, capture and suck minerals from everywhere. The mineral deficiency that arises in the intestinal area forces the body to compensate from its existing reserves, which are concentrated in the hair, teeth, and spongy bones. Every person's body has a built-in retreat algorithm, meaning what can be sacrificed first in case of mineral deficiency, then what comes second, and so on. For most adult men, this algorithm looks like this. 1. Teeth. We get cavities due to the use of minerals from the teeth. 2. Disabling the production of hair pigment. We get gray hair. 3. Hair loss on the head. The hair on the mustache and beard has a high priority and does not fall out even after the onset of osteoporosis. 4. Osteoporosis, porous bones, using minerals from the skeletal bones. For most adult women, this algorithm looks like this. 1. Teeth decay. 2. Stopping hair dye production, gray hair. 3. Osteoporosis. 4. For women, the hair on the head has a high priority and almost does not fall out even during the active phase of mineral withdrawal from the skeletal bones, osteoporosis. There are exceptions to this rule, but we are not considering them here. In children, mineral deficiency can manifest in such ways as tooth decay, underdeveloped jaw bones, crowded crooked teeth, valgus legs, that is knock knees, or varus legs, which means bow legs. Leg curvature caused by underdevelopment of either the inner or outer side of the knee joint, as well as partially the pelvic bones, bone demineralization, underdeveloped pelvis in girls, and narrow shoulders in boys. Mineral deficiency symptoms in children closely resemble those of rickets. It can even be assumed that these diseases have the same nature, a deficiency of minerals and enzymes. Phytic acid causes the first deficiency, while heat treatment causes the second. Clinical and experimental data allow us to consider migraine as a disease of magnesium deficiency. Migraine patients often have lower magnesium levels in serum, blood cells, saliva, and cerebrospinal fluid compared to healthy people. Magnesium plays an important role in nerve impulse transmission, cardiac excitability, neuromuscular conductivity, muscle contraction, vasomotor tone, as well as in the regulation of glucose and insulin metabolism. Low levels of magnesium in the body are associated with the development of hypertension, type 2, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, as well as migraines. Which foods deplete magnesium from the body? First of all, these are grains, and secondly, potatoes, beets, carrots, and other root vegetables. This is a misnomer, as they aren't truly fruits since they're hidden underground. The only safe food that does not contain anti-nutrients is the flesh of ripe fruits. This is the food that plants willingly offer to humans based on the principle, eat the flesh, but spread my seeds. For fruit plants, humans are a means of spreading them across the land. But unfortunately, humans have forgotten to be grateful to the plants that fed them and throw the seeds in the trash. Or in the case of small seeds like strawberries, currants, and gooseberries, they end up sending them down the drain. The creators built in a mechanism for the self-restoration of abundance of berries and fruits around humans, but now it has been disrupted in this way, and we need to restore it. We all need to make sure that berries and fruits grow everywhere around us. So let's eat living food and remember to thank the plants, making the world around us a blooming garden.